Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns and Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we're talking about the spell Aganazzar's Scorcher.
This is a big old fiery line of damage, and that is all it is. At the same time, I love lines. I think I might be the only player on planet Earth that cares this much about the text line. But
Yeah,
here
you
we
do
are.
like your lines.
I do like my lines.
Um, all right. This is. I like. Am I wrong in thinking this is Burning Hands for adults?
Yeah, that yeah. It's a second level Burning Hands. Takes an action to cast, 30-foot line. It requires a red dragon scale, so that might be hard to come by, but if you do happen upon one, sure. Or you can just use your orb and not worry about that. A line of roaring flame, 30 feet long and 5 feet wide, bursts from the ground in the direction you choose. Each creature in the line, I'm sorry, it emanates from you, so it doesn't come from the ground. So you can do this in space. Each creature in the line makes a dex save. On a failed save, it takes 3d8 or half as much on a success. And then it upcasts for a da bonus damage. Yeah, this is Burning Hands, but it's a line now.
All right. Well, what do you think of this? I mean,
I love it.
what do you do? All right.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel like a lot to talk about.
It's not. So I'll rip the band and clean off. If you upcast Burning Hands in a 15-foot cone, you're doing 46 damage, which is an average of 14. And if you cast Aganazzar Scorcher, which is 3d8 damage, in a 30-foot line, you're doing an average of 13.5 damage. Functionally, this is exactly the same damage. But hypothetically, this area is better. It's different, right? It's a 15-foot or 5-foot wide, 30-foot line. So it's going to be sometimes safer to use. It's going to sometimes hit more enemies, but it gets to be a line, and I love lines. Lines care about cover. Lines care about, so Burning Hands also cares about cover, but, it cares about positioning. It cares about not being behind your allies. It wants you to get a little bit of risk in there. So does Burning Hands, but they're very, very similar. What this opens up, though, is my ability to start using lines, and I love using lines. If you
like lines just for the challenge of using them,
yes.
though. That's I like something
Yes.
that's effective.
This is.
I don't have to
I would
break
say
out
this is.
a ruler and a compass.
Mhm.
I want to
Aganazzar
kill
Scorcher,
monsters.
it has even a less of a window to be good because Fireball is 2 levels away as opposed to 4 levels away in the case of Burning Hands, right? There is almost no character sheets that probably justify taking this. But if you are one of those people that didn't take a first level big damage spell, if you didn't take Burning Hands, but you're like, man, I really wish I had a damaging spell and I hit 3rd level, I guess it's time to pick one. Yeah, Aganazzar Scorcher is going to be good enough, and that's all you can really ask for. This is on rate. This is doing damage in an interesting area. This is for a tiny window in the game from 4th to 5th level, or from 3rd to 5th level. And once you hit 5th level, you never cast it ever again because the sorcerer wizard only and fireballs on the table. So you'll never cast again after that. But for that tiny little window, you get to get a little on fire. You get a little.
That's man, that's another point off for me because I want something. If it's that tiny a window, I feel like either I'm going to get a different damaging spell or I'm going to get a more useful spell that'll be useful for a longer period of time and let the other party members deal damage.
I think what really kills this is the Burning Hands exists, right?
Yeah,
there isn't even
well.
really a great reason to learn this over Burning Hands even at 3rd level because we just touched the numbers in, and the numbers are better for Burning Hands ever so slightly, and you could also cast that using 1st level spell slots, which just means no one needs this. Not a single person on planet Earth needs Aganazzar Scorcher. They didn't even bother changing. If this was at least a fun damage type, if it was poison or if it was acid or if it was lightning or something, then you got a baby lightning bolt. That's kind of nifty. It fits in the same pyromancer character sheet, right? It fits on the same person that lights the world on fire. It hits a very similar area, right? A 15-foot cone still means you have to position yourself somewhat up front. It means you hit things slightly further away is harder, but you're probably hitting more things. It's how fights work is everything bunches together in a giant glob that starts whacking each other. So Burning Hands is probably hitting more creatures in said glob because you're getting a triangle of damage as opposed to a line. There's still going to be some instances where everyone does line up nice and neat, and you just go, okay, and then I hit 6 creatures with it and feel like the coolest person on planet Earth. But That's very rare. My love for this spell is, I understand, entirely irrational. I think that there's something evocative to me of like, oh yeah, I want to play the character that the fiend that creates a little crack in the ground and burns some hellfire up in a little scorching line. I think that's cool. I like the idea of the Dragonborn that's like, oh yeah, my Scorcher is just like a beaming hot red line, like a laser that just fires out of its maw. I think that's super sweet. I like the damage. It does enough damage that I'm happy with it. No person ever needs this. Burning Hands exists and does a better job, different job, about as good a job as this does, but also can be cast as a first level spell. So, yeah, that's where Aganazzar Scorcher exists.
What about the material component, the red dragon scale? Is that something you get, or is that something you have to find?
Okay, so we can break into material components real quick, because this is a good place to talk about them. Because a red dragon scale is definitely not given, right? A red dragon scale is something that I would say is like, oh, that's probably not going to be your local supermarket. Like, not to say Bakwano is, but like the wizard shop probably has some amount of access to these things. Which, on an entirely separate note, for those DMs that are here, I highly recommend going 2 layers deep here. So finding out what spell components need to be sold, and then giving your merchants the things that produce them, right? Like, just having your wizard merchants have a big back cage that has a cool little, like, little thing to extract the guano from it, right? Having these eclectic kind of weird, like, why are they taking care of these creatures, is because they give spell components, because they're growing these weird things out back that have this horrible pungent odor, because it's necessary spell components that they need to do some of their magic stuff, and they sell it, and then you can get some really fun world building in it. But red dragon skills,
do they have like a dragon chained in the cellar and they're plucking scales off of it? That's
chained is an aggressive word. Maybe it's a pet
that they're plucking scales off of.
Yeah,
maybe it sheds. I don't know.
Or maybe this is like an adventurer went out and slayed a young red dragon and has just harvested 300 scales and sells them off for 50 gold a pop because they're useful for Aganazzar Scorcher. Yeah. I don't know why people need Aganazzar Scorcher, but you could. The other thing, right, is material components, from my understanding, you can ignore it if they do not have a gold cost. You don't need to actually have them if you have an arcane focus, or whatever the focus is for your subclass, so a druidic focus or a divine focus, or whatever they're called. So if you have like a staff that you use as your arcane focus, you don't need to have the material component on you, which means you could ignore the red dragon scale in its entirety. You can just say, this isn't here, I have a staff, I don't need it. Oh, pardon, as long as I'm holding my orb or staff or whatever, I do the thing. Now, this is Sam's controversy corner.
Uh-oh.
I think they should remove that. I don't think it's fun. I think material components add a lot of richness to characters. I think they should be readily available. I don't think anyone should have to struggle to get them. But I do think just asking your wizards, use your interact with an object to pull out something weird from your material component pouch to cast some of these spells, I think is nifty. I think that you're going to build a lot more robust of a world if material components are a core element that you play around with. I think some of my favorite characters I've ever played with, every time I play a character that has material components, you best believe I've got all of them somewhere on my person, and I've thought about what pouches I've got random shit shoved in. Like, I had a halfling bard that just had big cases of like grasshopper legs and big old like this we called it the swaggin' wagon, and it basically carried my material components in a whole bunch of different ways, and you sit back, and it paints a really robust, immersive picture of a character, and you get a lot of oddities, and you have to jump through a lot of hoops to get magic to work, and it starts to feel more magical to me. So I highly recommend spend some time and look through your material components and find some cool little fun things. You don't have to care about all of them, but find the ones you like that you think do work with your character, and be like, yeah, I pull out some rosemary for this, or I pull out, a little spring of mistletoe to do a charm spell or whatever. And you can even ask your DM, be like, hey, this is a weird material component, can I do this instead? Because it fits my character well. There's a lot of room for growth here, and it's good that we can talk about it here, because there's not a lot to talk about Aganazzar Scorcher beyond that. But yeah, material components are fun. I think more people should play with them. I think the red dragon scale here means, if I would say it'd be neat if the red dragon still gave this an extra d8 damage, right? So it's like, if you use the spell's material component, there's a cool upside that could be really fun, and then it's like, oh, this is now meaningfully better than Burning Hands. I think I'm willing to try, because I've gone through the work, I've got the red dragon scale. Yeah, cool, that's neat. But as far as like practicality getting one, you don't need it. You can always just use your orb, you can always just use your wand, you can always just use the staff. So
it's also, material components are also fun, because a red dragon scale, it's hard to go out and get by yourself, slaughter a red dragon. That, when you're looking to acquire Aganazzar Scorcher, that's probably not on the cards. Yeah. But if you see a wizard cast this spell and you think, he's probably got a red dragon scale on him, you can either duke it out with him, or follow him back to his apartment and loot through his things, or that's a little adventure.
Absolutely. I would definitely say it definitely should be up to the players to make that adventure occur if they want it to occur. I don't think a DM should be like, oh, you can't do any of the things the book allows you to do because I want you to go get a fetch quest or I want you to go do a thing. I would definitely advocate for this being player driven. But I 100% agree that there's a lot of fun to be had in the a red dragon skill, you say? I've been interested in this Aganazzar fellow and his Scorcher. Let me go pick some pockets or punch him in the dome, right? Like those that seems like a fun little way to navigate a lot of Dungeons and Dragons.
All right, well, Burning Hands plus.
Yeah.
Not
even. Burning Hands question mark?
Okay, well, you got a rating for this one?
I don't think anyone ever needs to cast this. I think this is a 1. I really don't think this spell is like, because Burning Hands exists and can be cast at a lower level and isn't in the exact same classes, is easier to get. There's no reason for this to exist. That being said, I will be putting this on character sheets because I think it's fun. I love lines. If you have an irrational love of the appearance of it, it will be as functional as Burning Hands. But because of the spell that is so readily taken, that is so good, exists, and just does almost exactly the same thing this does, I can't justify giving this more than a 1. This doesn't need to exist.
Yeah, I was going to give it a 2 because I thought you'd give it a 3, but I don't want to give it a better rating than you. Yeah, I'll stick with your 1 then.
Yeah, this is a spell that I love that certainly doesn't need to exist.
All right, well, that was Aganazzar Scorcher. Thank you, Sam, and thank you, everyone, for joining us. We will see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description where you'll find my Caverns and Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.